Hello. One thing I've realised recently from talking to some more people come into my world, which has been wonderful, is that they don't really know why I do what I do. And that's an error on my part, because unless you go onto my website and click on the About Me section and try to understand, you won't really know what's drawn me to well-being in general and kinesiology. So I thought it might be quite nice just to pop a little update on here. Because most of the things that I do come with both professional and personal experience. I think we all probably know that when we've been through something or overcome some adversity in some way, that we are somehow driven to support others who have been in those or are coming into those similar situations. And then that's definitely what's happened in my case. So a little bit about me is that when I was doing my GCSEs, I got glandular fever and just kind of kept getting worse, really. To the time that I was doing my A-levels, I was really quite poorly and I was in and out. I think I'd started sixth form and within 2 weeks I was home for 2 weeks for tonsillitis again. I was constantly having tonsillitis and all sorts of various illnesses and viruses that seemed to just keep going round and around and round. It progressively got worse. So actually during my gap year, I went to Hungary to work with a lawyer. So I lived in Budapest for 3 months and I was really tired and had to reduce my hours a lot when I was there, but didn't really think anything of it. Just thought, gosh, this is a real virus, isn't it? That was about it. Then I flew out to New Zealand to work as a gap student out there as well. And the same thing happened. And I actually had to curtail it and come back a month early at the end. As soon as my placement finished, there was no travelling to Australia and Fiji, sadly. Then I managed to start at university, and within my first 2 weeks, no, that's not true. I think I managed 3-4 days of Freshers Week and then was home again for 2 weeks. When I went back, I had now transferred and registered under the university doctor. And they said, well, how are you managing your ME? I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. And she said, well, you've got chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis. What are you doing about it? I didn't know. I hadn't been told. My GP in my local village at the time didn't believe in ME. He still thought it was yuppie flu. I hate those, but and he just didn't believe in it, so he hadn't told me. All I had been told was to reduce the amount of netball I was playing and try and reduce on my extracurricular activities, because I've always been a really busy person who fills my life with lots and lots of different things. So that was a massive shock, and that led to some rethinking. Throughout my first year of university, I was reading English literature, which also shows you how much life can change, doesn't it? It's not massively interested in the or impacted in the wellbeing world. I had about 5 contact hours a week of lectures and seminars, and I struggled to make some of those. A lot of my time was spent sleeping, resting. There really wasn't a lot of socialising. There was certainly no additional groups or activities at university, which is kind of the whole point, isn't it? To try things out, make friends, become yourself. And after my first year of uni, I had been so delayed on some of my essays. My tutors and lecturers have been amazing that they talked to me about taking a year out, which I did. And I promptly relapsed even further. And it still feels emotional talking about it now. That was that was the worst year. My parents were fantastic. I got to move back home, and I was essentially bedbound with them for about 6 months. I think I must have been 20. And then I think my 21st birthday came along, and we've got a picture of me literally lying with a 21st birthday balloon, but I was fast asleep, wrapped up in blankets because I really struggled. I was cold the whole time. I was completely pale as a ghost. And that was when I really, it is a lot, isn't it? I really didn't know what life was going to look like again. And I never thought I was going to be able to get back to university, get my degree. Spoiler, I did. And my mum and I were talking, and she was going to have to change her whole life, as was my stepfather, and to cope with, how do I have an adult child living at home forever? I never thought I was going to have any level of independence. I had no idea that I'd ever be able to work and gain a job. Huge amount of stuff, really, really big, really, really overwhelming. So that's when I say to people, I understand in some situations. I'm not going to understand all the nuances in your life, but I really have been there with those. Wow, the rug is literally pulled out from underneath your feet. I didn't know anything about complementary medicine. If I did, I thought, you maybe go to a homeopath and take a pill. I don't really know what it does, but apparently it helps you. I was really, really skeptical. So we tried homeopathy, acupuncture. I went to a kinesiologist, and oh my gosh, that kinesiologist blew me away. She remains a very, very dear friend to this day. And what I loved was she said to me, you've got lots of different things that are imbalances. She didn't say the phrase going wrong, but that was how I interpreted it. And she said, and I can't fix you straight away, but I can definitely strengthen you in lots of ways. If you give me some time, I'll work through. Well, within the first session, I had felt a weight had been lifted. I had somebody to help me guide the way forward. So briefly, there was glandular fever. It had turned into a post-virus element, a post-viral fatigue. There were some food intolerances. There was a load of gut disruption. I had become the person who was really living off a lot of sugar to get me through the day, a lot of wheat, a lot of dairy, real triggers for my body at that point because I was coping with so much inflammation. And mentally, obviously not in a great place, although this is 20 years ago. So we didn't really talk about mental health as much then, or emotional well-being or whatever we do, which I now adore. And I think it is such a big part and plays such a huge part of our physical health. They're so interlinked. So I was really struggling. I was really stressed. I was really exhausted. I really wasn't sure that there was a massive way forward. I thought my life would always be at like this kind of low level. And I was conscious of the guilt and the impact it was having on my parents as well, thinking, oh, I'm back, now what to do? And I was supposed to be going off, I was a scholarship pupil, I was supposed to be going for having this glittering career and training as a barrister and do my, postgraduate law conversion, and none of that happened, and thank God it didn't, because it sent me down a different path. But they were dark times. So when I talk about having spent a lot of time in the last few years really training up on counselling techniques, mental health support, both in adults and in young people, really working around stress management, managing anxiety, low mood, it's because I deeply know and feel the impact that this has had. I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't believe in like, oh, you'll be fine, go girl, it'll all be okay in the end. That's not true. I do believe in hope. I do believe in optimism. I do always believe in looking on the sunnier side. And if we can't, we gently work out why. What's stopping us? Is it fear? Is it because we haven't had it modelled? Have we not seen anybody recover from whatever thing we're going through? So it's very much working through those thoughts. Coupled with this at the time, the other thing that came into my life was a load of digestion and IBS and loads of food intolerances, some really, really embarrassing moments in the bowel department, which I am quite comfortable to talk about people openly, but I know some people find it a bit odd still. That embarrassing time of, I have to go into the toilet right now, I have to find somewhere, and looking really bloated on a tube, being offered a seat so many times because I looked pregnant, which was mortifying. And just trying to manage that in the world of life. This is turning into a really long story and it wasn't supposed to be, so I don't know if I'll be able to post it. But essentially, I'll put this up as a few different things, but essentially all of my experiences and then all of my subsequent training helped me realise that I needed to change my lifestyle. After I'd recovered, I dashed up to London, worked in advertising. I did love it, but it was full on, and I had gotten back into the croissant, coffee, sugar kind of fix, get through the day, nice lot of alcohol on a Friday night when the drinks trolley kind of came down. I did a little bit of sport. I really love being active, but it had to be fitted in around work. So work really kind of took over. And just before my 30th birthday, my father had died the year previously. I was not in a particularly great relationship at the time. And a year after my dad died, I think it all just hit me, and I was what I now know would then be a relapse, was kind of relapsing into kind of a chronic fatigue again. And Epstein-Barr showed up again. That's the official word for glandular fever. The Epstein-Barr virus showed up again in my body, and I was like, no, absolutely not. Called up my mum. Hi mum, so I'm going to be 30 soon. Any chance I could leave London and move back to Bath and live with you while I completely retrain and change my life? Luckily she said yes. Fast forward 10 years, here I am training kinesiology, anatomy, physiology, naturopathic nutrition, understanding people's mental health, counselling skills, suicide and self-harm prevention, because I want to bring to you all the best version of me and the most that I can do. So physical and emotional health is completely connected. We can't separate it out. We are the sum, of our experiences, of our beliefs, of what we put into our body, what we put into our mind, the environment that we live in. And I help you with all of these.